Hi, I'm Phil Brindley and I'm going to learn something today. Today I'm going to learn how to install the beta test version of Project MockingBird firmware onto my TinyHawk S. I bought my TinyHawk S a couple of weeks ago, really enjoying flying it, having a lot of fun on some whoop tracks, and spotted this post on the Project MockingBird site asking for beta testers, so I'm going to give this a go. Now to do this, I'm going to have to update the ESCs on my TinyHawk S. Currently they're not running the JESC firmware, and they're also not running 48 kilohertz. So I'm going to have to install both of those. So I'm going to go through this process start to finish in this video. Hopefully I will learn how to do that as I go along, and maybe in true Joshua style you might learn something how to do that as well. It's Boxing Day. I've had a couple of beers, so what better time to try? Okay, so let's have a look. The post here says you must have JESC 48 kilohertz to make this work. My TinyHawk S currently doesn't have that. So the first thing we're going to have to do is go over to the Betaflight website and set up an account, get the ESCs sorted out. There are full instructions on how to do all of this on the JESC website. I will put a link in the description to get to this site, but it is jflight.net, pretty straightforward. And there is a link towards the bottom of the page for install instructions, takes you to this page. So the first thing to do is check whether your ESC supports JESC. We start with the BL Heli configurator and check the name of the ESC. So we're going to connect the TinyHawk up and go straight to the BL Heli configurator and check that we're okay to do this. So we will load up BL Heli configurator, which I thought I had already. BL Heli configurator, there we go. Now I'm currently have Betaflight open, so that's going to connect to the ESC automatically unless I uncheck auto connect. Don't want Betaflight connecting first, otherwise BL Heli will not be able to connect. Okay, so we're all connected up. We'll click on connect and we'll click on read setup in the bottom right hand corner. Well, there we go. So it's given me my settings here. We can see we have got an H in there, so SH90 in my case, and I'm currently running 16.7. Been running 16.7 ever since turtle mode became a thing. It's been really rock solid, so fingers crossed. Now what I'm going to quickly do is take a little snip of this screen, so that if something does go wrong I can put it straight back to how it was. So I'm going to use the snipping tool built into Windows. I'm going to put it in window snip mode and I'm going to click this. As you can see, that's a handy little tip, gives you a JPEG file in case you didn't know how to do that already. I will save that and call that BL Heli underscore base 16.7. Okay, now we've done that, we'll keep the snipping tool open. We might need that again later. We can disconnect at this point because we're not going to use BL Heli configurator again from what I can gather. And we'll close that down. So check whether your flight controller supports bidirectional D-shot. Well, it is an F4 chip on there. It's the Matek F411 RX target, in case you didn't know, on the TinyHawk. So I'm pretty comfortable that that's okay. In fact, if I do go to the link here, it will actually tell me that somewhere on here, at least, I think, it tells you that all F4 boards are okay. And all this is a link to the hex files for loads of F3 boards. So we don't really need to do anything there. Okay, download and install the latest Betaflight hex with JESC support. There we go. It's supported by default since 4.1 release candidate 3. Well, we're on full release 4.1 now, so that shouldn't be an issue. We don't need to do anything there. It's Phil from the future here. I skipped this step, as you can see in this video, because I'd already got Betaflight 4.1.1 installed on my TinyHawk. If you're upgrading from a standard factory TinyHawk, you'll only have version 4.0, so you will have to go and update Betaflight to 4.1 or 4.1.1, the latest version. There are loads of videos out on the internet how to do that already. I'll link one in the description below. This video is already getting quite long, so I'm not going to do that here. Then we'll go to download and install the JESC configurator, and if you click on that link, that will take you to GitHub. Choose your poison in terms of operating system and download the file. For me it's Win64. I've already downloaded this, cheated a little bit, went a bit ahead of myself, but it's an 82-ish meg file, so I won't put you through the pain of sitting there watching my broadband download that. So once you've done that, you can open it up. We've got that here. Looks very familiar, as I'm sure many of you will have seen this before, or something like it. Looks very much like the Chrome app that we used to have for Betaflight and for BLHeli Configurator, which are now standalone apps, and this one, same again. So it's using pretty much the same code by the looks of it. We'll go back to Chrome. And the next one, visit jflight.net and set up an account. Purchase the required telemetry licenses for your ESC. So this is the bit where you have to pay. So we'll go in there. We're already there actually. Right, so on here you've got the option to buy single licenses for individual firmware, or four bundles of 4, or if you wanted a bundle of 100. I don't think there's a huge amount of difference in terms of the price between buying a single bundle for a 4-in-1 and 20 licenses. Pretty much all of my quads are 4-in-1 ESCs. The only one that isn't has BLHeli 32 on it, so I won't need this anyway. So I'm going to buy 20. Hey, it's Christmas. Let's splash out and have a splurge. So go to the checkout. Obviously I'm a new customer, so I'm going to set up an account. I won't bore you with all the details of that. I will come back after this brief interlude. Okay, so I've been in, set up my account. It was a slightly weird process. When I was adding the address details, it kind of kept dropping me back, and I kept re-entering them. Then it was telling me that it already existed. So enter it once, it then sends you an email, doesn't tell you it's doing that, and then you can verify and log in. So I've done that. I've ordered my JESC licenses. I went for the batch of 20. Which are $19.99, which is about £16 current exchange rates, which is not bad really. So I'm going to continue from there. Go back to the install instructions. So now it's telling me to start the JESC configurator and license my ESCs. So I've got the configurator there. Plug the TinyHawk back in because that unplugged it so it didn't overheat. And we'll connect. And we'll read setup again. and it's showing these are unlicensed, so we'll click license all. Okay, and that's obviously taken me to log in, so I'll do that now and be back shortly. Okay, so we've logged in, so I'm now going to click activate ESCs. As you can see, I've got 20 licenses currently. Okay, so a little confession at this point. The couple of beers I've had have kicked in. I've just realised that I've recorded all of the next section with the little picture of the TinyHawk covering most of the important information. So I'm going to redo it again, but there's a few bits that we need to ignore. So it already says here that I've got JESC 2.2 and telemetry 2.1. Yours won't say that, mine does. So what we're going to do is, as per the instructions, we're going to hit flash all. We're going to select JESC version 48 kHz, so that'll give us our 48 kHz version, and click flash, and it's going to go through and flash those now. Takes a couple of minutes, so we'll come back when that's done. Okay, so that finished without any issues, which is exactly what I expected because I've already done it once. So now we go to flash the telemetry. So this is the bit that gives us the ability to do the RPM filtering. So we're going to click flash telemetry. We're going to select version 2.1, which is the latest and only version available, and click flash. This is much quicker, so we'll just stay with it while it runs through these. It's going to go through and do each one in turn, as you would expect. And there we go, we're all done. So it's saying at the top there, reading setup finished, which is the indicator that everything's finished. Not a tricky one really. So that's everything we need to do in JESC Configurator. So I'm going to disconnect from that now. And then my next job is to go into Betaflight and install the Project MockingBird settings. So we got that from this post that I showed you earlier. There's a little bit of information there about the profiles that he set up, some changes since the standard 24K 4.1 Project MockingBird tune that we were using. I did try that out. It is pretty good. I like it. The rates are obviously Patrick's rates. They're a bit crazy for me, so I was going to tone those down a little bit. But actually I'll I'll do that once we've finished doing this work that we're doing here. So if we click on the link, which is handily placed here for us, that takes us off to I think it's a OneDrive file. And in that we have a diff file, which gives us all of the settings that we're going to need to run Project MockingBird on our TinyHawk. So we'll go into Betaflight, we will connect up. Now, as I mentioned before, I did this once already with that little picture of the TinyHawk in the corner blocking loads of information. So I'm just going to stop the video and take that picture out, and then we'll be back shortly. Okay, so hopefully that's now gone. So we are connected up, and again, I have to confess, because I've done this once already, it's already got the Project MockingBird tune on there. But we'll go through it again anyway. So we go back to Chrome, and we'll copy everything from here. Could probably just done Control A. So we'll do a copy. We'll go into Betaflight. We'll go to our CLI tab. Now what you might want to do at this point is do a diff all before you start. that will give you all of the settings you've currently changed. Now actually this is going to be pretty much identical to the Project MockingBird settings, but I'm going to save this because this has got slightly different OSD and a couple of bits and pieces in it. So what I'm going to do is save all of this, because after I've shown you how to do this, I'm going to put this file back on because it's got all my modes and OSD set up on it. So we're going to copy that. We're going to open up a notepad file, paste that in and save it. You don't necessarily have to save it, but as you can see I tend to keep these things. So I'm going to call this version 2. And then if we go into Chrome again, we can copy all of this and drop it straight in. So do a Control V to paste, or however you choose to paste things, and we'll run that through. I don't know if you noticed there was a red line that came up as it scrolled through, and it's saying at the bottom there as well we've got some errors detected, so we'll go up and have a quick look at what that was, see if there's anything we need to worry about. So it's saying set baro hardware equals none. Okay, well I haven't got a barometer on my TinyHawk, and I don't suspect that you guys will either, so I think we can probably leave that out, not worry too much about that. So we're going to hit save, and that will save the settings, reboot the quad, we'll go to connect. What we should now have is a nice fresh Project MockingBird tune. So as we can see, we'll have a quick look through some of the tabs, go into expert mode. So in the ports, it's already got TBS smart audio set up. I'm hoping that means that the VTX tables are in there already. That would be nice. Configuration tab. Okay, so we've got D-Shot 300, bidirectional D-Shot supported. That is what gives you your RPM filtering. So without that you wouldn't get the RPM filter with that, but we've got that checked. Motor directions normal, running at 4K. I'm just checking the CPU there, it's pretty low, 28%, that's fine. Arming at 180 so we can get ourselves out of trees. Camera angle set at 20 for the FPV camera angle mode that it uses. That's an angle mode setting, although I think actually on this version of the tune it is using it on everything. Air mode is not enabled permanently. I think Patrick said in his post that he enables it on a switch. I'm going to take that off. So I'm going to put air mode permanently enabled. Save and reboot. And then we'll go to power and battery. Now he's got that set pretty low. I'm going to up that a little bit to 3, and I'm going to get the warning at 3.15. I had my previous version of this set up like this. I was getting about 4 minutes of flight time on a 1S 450. Pretty pleased with that, but I'm hoping we can get more now with this 48 kilohertz. So we'll see how we get on. Failsafe, always check your failsafe, folks. Pretty standard stuff. PID tuning, this is where all the interesting stuff is, of course. So if we go to PID profile 1, you can see we've got angle strength at 110 and angle limit at 70. That's pretty different to the standard settings. That means you're going to get quite a steep pitch and roll angles, which you wouldn't normally get in a standard angle mode tune. Rate profiles. So like I say, 1000 degrees a second. I used to run fairly close to that, but recently I've been running down at 600-ish. so I'll change those, put my own rates in. Can't remember what they are off the top of my head though, so I'll come back to that later. I feel settings now. I'm not going to mess with these. I'm going to assume that the ones that Patrick's put in there are sound, but obviously we need to double check motor temperatures, etc. Receiver tab. I haven't got my radio connected at the minute, so we'll assume this is okay. Now when I put the previous MockingBird tune on, I did have to rebind to the TinyHawk, so we may have to rebind again here. It's not a particularly difficult task with the TinyHawk, thankfully. You can do it while it's powered on, so it's all pretty straightforward. You don't have to fiddle about connecting batteries and holding down tiny buttons and what have you. So modes, this is the bit that I'm going to change quite significantly, I guess. I might as well do that quickly now. So I arm on aux 3. I want angle to be my default mode, and I use aux 1. Horizon, same one. I want a beeper on aux 2, and in the middle, FPV angle mix. So that's the bit around the camera angle and yaw and all that kind of stuff. So that wants to be spread across all my modes. Flip over after crash, I use aux 4. We'll save that. Not going to go into the adjustments tab. Other than, oh, that's interesting. This Phil from the future again. So I did change this to aux 1 so that it would change the PID rate profile whenever I change the mode. Although I ended up disabling that, as it wouldn't allow me to then change the rate profile in the OSD. It would always override it back to whatever the switch value was. So this made trying out different rate profiles a bit of a pain. I'll probably re-enable it once I've settled on a rate profile. Servos don't have any. Motor tab, standard stuff. OSD. Actually, the OSD setup is pretty much how I would have mine. I don't have the mode on there. I'm not too interested in that. I do have timer 2 in its place. Just there. And since it works on the TinyHawk, I might as well have RSSI. Because then it'll just look like all my other quads, which is quite handy. So we'll save that. So video transmitter, this is the, yes, great. So we have got VTX tables set up already. That's very good. Well done, Patrick, top man. And that's pretty much it. So I'm going to save that. And that should be everything we need set up. I will give that a try tomorrow morning, have a few flights around the house with it, see how it feels, see if there's any discernible difference in flight characteristics or battery life, and report back later on in this video. So join me in the morning. Welcome back, folks. Okay, some time has passed. It's now the following day after the upgrade of the TinyHawk last night to the Project MockingBird 48 kHz RPM filter version. Thoughts, I guess. It feels good, it flies well. There's not really any prop wash. I've been running it around the house. It's a fairly small house, so I'm not really going to show you the footage of that, but I've been giving it as much as I can in that space. That's included going up and down the stairs a few times on each lap. And it's coped admirably, no problems, no prop wash, no jitters or anything like that. I'm getting around about 4.5 minutes of flight time out of a 450 milliamp 1S battery with those LEDs running, and a few little bits of extra weight in terms of those LEDs and a little TPU camera mount, but I think most people have those. So yeah, it's pretty good. Very impressed with it, really. So definitely an upgrade worth doing if you have the TinyHawk. So hopefully this tutorial or this video, hardly really a tutorial, will give you the ability to do that if you don't already have that. If you have any problems, give me a shout. I will try and help. Leave any comments in the section below. Hopefully if you like the video and the video is helpful to you, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more of this sort of thing, please hit the subscribe button. So I will add some track footage of this upgraded version next week, so that will be a separate video. We've got a tiny whoop night coming up locally, so we'll give it a proper session then. On track previously, I've been hitting about 3 minutes 15 in terms of battery life on these 1S450s. So if we're now up into the 4-minute mark, that would be fantastic. But I'll let you know sometime next week. So keep an eye on the channel for some more videos and a bit of footage from that tiny whoop night. Okay, thanks very much. See you next time.